Welcome back, dear listeners, to the Friday Fight Podcast, where we rank, recap, and review every horror movie in a given franchise. And right now, we are still continuing our holiday horror kind of series. It's not really a season, but we're doing Dead End special episodes where we just cover some really cool seasonal movies that get you in the spirit, or the holiday spirit, rather. So today, we are talking about It's a Wonderful Knife. I'm Jumpscare Jer, and we're Geraldine, the Fright of the podcast.
And I'm Frankie. I'm the Flight of the podcast. Well, first and foremost, Sherilyn, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
I know you're typically the Grinch type for Christmas.
No,
you
I'm
don't
not.
like celebrating. You hate joy. That's why you like horror films so much, because, no joy.
Okay.
But I'm here for it. As you can see, we're both wearing sweaters.
We're wearing sweaters.
Mine says Christmas mood. And then if you could see, there's like a little cow. See? And he even has a little bell. You guys can hear it.
Perfect.
And Geraldine is like, I think it's like some movie or something.
Yeah, it's Nightmare Before Christmas, you
Yeah.
know. Fun times. The other one that I had that was going to wear was a little bit more colorful, but it's in the wash, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So.
but it's black like your heart.
Yeah, because that's just how dark and twisty I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just recently went to see this movie in theaters. It's not something that you can just go watch on demand yet.
Yep.
Yet, I will say. It will be released on Shudder, the streaming platform for a lot of horror movies and TV shows alike. It will be released in the U.S. on December 22nd on Shudder if you are a user of that. And it should be having other releases around the world for various platforms like Shudder and theater releases, but they all vary different times, unfortunately. You know how theater releases go.
You and I saw it in a theater together in a fairly small room.
Very small room.
And I think the theater experience kind of heightened the film a little bit for me. I think I would have enjoyed it less if I saw it at home, so I'm glad I got to see it in a theater.
Me too. I like seeing something on the big screen, but I think also the fact it wasn't like a packed theater. It was like a small theater, and there was like I don't know, maybe at least 10 other people in there with us.
Yeah.
And that made it a little bit more intimate to me.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
So it was really nice. And it didn't have a very long opening in the theater, at least in our local theater, because it's not showing anymore, and it's like a week later.
Yeah,
so.
it's not a big film, definitely.
Definitely not.
It's a smaller budget film. I don't know if you have the stats.
I don't have what the budget was, but I do have what they have made so far, which is really cool.
How much?
Just in the opening weekend in the U.S. and Canada itself, which it released November 10th, and through the 12th, November 10th through the 12th, that in the U.S. and Canada, it made nearly $600,000 and nearly $780,000 worldwide so far, which is really cool.
Yeah, I don't think the budget is listed apparently, but yeah, I'm interested to find out if this was a film that did well. I mean, it did have some notable names in it.
It did have notable names in it, which I think makes a difference. Some notable names that I feel like a lot of people know, and if you don't know them, then you're going to get to know them because of how in the movies and in the media they are in general. But I will give some potential warnings, because when we were watching this, I thought, dang, some of this content, whether it be like visually or thematically speaking, is a little bit difficult. So some trigger warnings that might be upsetting to you are some suicide and drug use. So those are two that are really big ones. But also for a visual warning, there is a huge flash warning.
It's gigantic. For me, that's the biggest of the three. I almost seized Geraldine. I was watching the film, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Literally, if anybody had a smidge of epilepsy.
Oh my gosh, I was literally thinking that. I was like, man, if you were epileptic and you were watching this movie on the big screen, oh my gosh, it literally made me a little bit worried. I was this is kind of big yikes, but definitely a humongous warning.
I had a hard time. There's moments in that where I just closed my eyes because I was like, this is bugging me so much. It's hard to see.
Yeah, it is kind of difficult to see, which I do like the color grading that they did in the movie. It was a little bit darker, a little bit more on the grungy side, but it wasn't. My biggest complaint about movies and TV shows nowadays, I guess, rather, is that sometimes they have scenes that are so dark that I can't see anything at all. And then I'm like,
all the time. I don't know why.
And I'm like, what you think we got on? we can't adjust the brightness of our TV like a lot, and it's not like a convenient thing to do.
Might be an HDR thing where like everybody assumes we have like $20,000 televisions that can show everything,
but we don't, and it's a humongous complaint of mine because we literally just were watching another thing with Justin Long in it, Goosebumps, because he's in that series, which is really cool. There was a scene where it was so dark, literally almost as dark as the TV right next to your head, and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's kind of like I remember there was a big hubbub about that when I don't know if it was the 4th or 5th episode of the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
that everybody complained about, like, oh my gosh, I saw nothing happen.
Yes.
And it's around then. Ever since then, I feel like we've just been getting thing after thing where like I can't see what's going on. It's too dark.
It's too
dark.
Bring
some lights.
Bring some lights, because not everybody has amazing 20/20 vision. Like, your girl's got astigmatisms in both of her eyes, so I'm like struggling to see. I do have some really cool behind the scenes stuff to share with you guys today, so I'm excited about that. But let's go ahead and talk about the cast. Who do we have?
It appears this gentleman named Justin Long. Now, I've never seen him in any movies before, and I've never really seen him in anything, but I am familiar with his face. I know he was in Tusk. It's a Kevin Smith movie that I haven't seen.
I haven't seen that one either. It'll be really fun to cover on the podcast at some point.
But he plays Mayor Henry Waters.
Yes, and apparently people have suspicions that it is based on an actual person named Walter Groggins. I have no idea who that man is, but I did write it down. Should I have done further research on it? Absolutely. Did I? No, because I was like, cool, I believe you. But in this movie, he looks goofy as hell. He's got like fake teeth on, and it's really apparent because obviously like it sticks out. It's like a humongous overbite. I have an overbite. I get it. And he also has like blonde hair and blue eyes in this movie. Weird. He looks straight up weird, but it's hilarious, and it really adds to the comedic factor that the movie does bring.
I think it kind of represents kind of like a salesman almost kind of vibe that like it basically like tries too hard to be like welcoming and inviting.
Oh my God, yeah. Because he's literally a mayor, so he's political, and there's a lot of really cool messages that we'll definitely talk about, because I have a lot of like fun, like, I don't know, thoughts about it. But overall, I was like, man, he brought a lot to this performance, and it was really fun, and I just loved him as a person. He's really cool. But yeah, so that's what's one super cool character that we do get. We don't get him as much as I would love to have him in the movie, but he's in there a pretty good bit.
Yeah. We also get Catherine Isabel as Gail Prescott.
Does that name sound familiar to you?
Prescott, like from Scream.
But also Gail Weathers.
Oh,
it's a combination of the names.
And who does she play?
She plays the aunt. She's the fun lesbian aunt. It's obviously a Scream reference, but this actress is also tied to the Ginger Snaps franchise, which is about werewolves.
Interesting. Her face also looked familiar to me. I don't know what I recognize her from, but she did look familiar.
She's pretty great. I haven't seen her in anything other than Ginger Snaps and maybe some other small cameos, but love her. She's awesome. We got
Erin Boyce as Judy Carruthers,
which is the mom. She has a very familiar face as well, and I literally cannot. I don't think I've seen her in anything, but she just has a familiar face.
Yeah, I do like her performance.
Yeah,
I like her, and she plays alongside Joel McHale. I know from Community. And he plays David Carruthers, her husband. He does. And you know what? He's typically kind of an asshole character a lot of the time. Anytime that I've seen him in anything, he's always like an asshole. He kind of reminds me of that podcast guy, Armchair Expert. I don't know. Dax Shepard? Yes! Yeah, I feel like they play kind of similar kind of characters. They do, but I love both Dax Shepard and I love Joel McHale. Joel McHale in general is a super cool guy, and he's done a lot of things. He also randomly hosted the Tiger King reunion. So after that whole debacle with the first season, he had a reunion episode where he got to interview a lot of the people who experienced all of this. Very random thing for him to do, but he did it during the 2020 pandemic. Well, that's what he does. He just does a lot of random little things. I love it though, because he's kind of involved. I mean, he literally was the host of The Soup for a long time, I believe. But I love him in Community. He was an asshole in Community, but an endearing asshole, I guess. In this movie, he plays a really nice marketing kind of guy. Yeah. But it's a small town, so he works alongside Justin Long as the mayor. He works alongside him to help build his presence, but he's always working on holidays and stuff, which is really sucky. And of course, as we know, people who are all about politics, capitalism, all of these things, they will have you
working your ass off on those holidays because they don't care. They don't care about you.
That seems to be kind of a running trope in a lot of films about the holidays. It's typically like the work environment surrounding it, and everything about like having to work on these days or around these days.
But I like it because it's realistic. Because anytime, I mean, we both have worked food service, and I've not necessarily worked retail, but if you've worked food service or retail, it is a known thing. Don't even bother asking off for the holidays. Typically, the only days we'll have off are the actual holiday day itself, like the day before, the day after you're working. Mm-hmm. Black Friday is notable in those in those communities because people like to go out to eat. People like to go doing their holiday shopping. It's just ridiculous.
Because people will go out to shop on Black Friday.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, I'm hungry, and they'll stop by the restaurant.
And typically you get the worst of the worst because they've just blown all of their money shopping, and then they don't want to tip you, and they are like exhausted, and they take all of their frustrations out on you because they're upset with their own lives, all of those things. But anyway, super cool character. I liked his character, but at some point he does become an asshole, which is like shocking. Not really though.
We also have Aiden Howard as Jimmy Carruthers.
The brother. He was nice.
Yeah. He seems really cool. He's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy.
A lot of homosexuality in this film.
We'll definitely talk about that.
The gays are here. The rainbows are everywhere.
I loved it.
We get Jane Woodop as Winnie Carruthers.
Yes, Winnie. I love her name. It just makes me think of Hocus Pocus, all of these notable things.
I think it's the bear.
Winnie the bear?
Yeah, he likes honey.
Oh, Winnie the Pooh. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's funny because that literally went over my head. I think of Winnie as in Winifred Sanderson, Hocus Pocus. But also, my family has a dog named Winnie who's super cute. They named her after Winnie the werewolf from Hotel Transylvania.
A lot of great Winnies out there.
A lot of great Winnies. Yeah. We love Winnie. Love her character though. She's super quirky, super cool. Seems to be like a friend of everyone except for the next character that's listed on the list.
Jess McLeod as Bernie Simon.
Bernie Simon, also referred to a lot in the movie as weirdo.
Yeah.
Which is
and I'm sure
really
you relate to this.
Why do I relate to this?
I just often hear you say like, "Oh my God, I was such a weirdo in high school."
I don't say it that often.
You've said it on the podcast.
I am a weird person. I don't know that I've like explicitly said, "Oh my God, I was such a weirdo." I mean, like, have I grown up being weird my whole life? Yeah. Is it like a bad thing?
Because
no.
also like, "Oh yeah, Geraldine, she was so cool," and you're like, "No, I was weird." You're like the guy, like Jughead from that show or whatever.
No, I am not like Jughead. I'm not like, it's not cool to be like cool. I'm just a weird person. No, I'm not like Jughead.
Yeah, kind of.
No, I was quirky though, which is not the same thing.
We have Sean Deppner as Buck Waters.
Buck Waters.
He was really funny.
He was super funny.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything.
I want to say that I have seen him actually, surprisingly, in Riverdale.
Oh wow,
I really think so.
Well, he seems like he'd fit that kind of environment very well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I think he was so funny.
He was hilarious. Like, apart from Justin Long, he also stole the show.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
If there's sequels, I want to see more of him.
Oh my God, I would love to see more about Angel Falls. This place sounds so cool. But they have a lot of other really cool actors listed. A lot of like minor characters. They all play a big role in the like driving the plot along though. But a little bit about this movie, I'll tell you the brief synopsis that you will actually see in the trailer because, unfortunately, it is a slasher. So slashers are not super duper unpredictable. They're very predictable, I would say. There's a good formula that has been laid out for slashers. And so the trailer shows a lot of the parts that you would see in the film. They do leave a couple of things out, so you do get a couple of surprises. But overall, it's not a super duper secret film. But quick synopsis: in the Christmas loving town of Angel Falls, it's been 1 year since the mayor donned an angel costume and went on a violent killing spree that ended in his own death. 1 year later, Winnie, a survivor of the attack, mourns the death of her best friend at the mayor's hands and enters a spiral of survivor's guilt that ends in her wishing she was never born. Her wish is granted, and there's just one catch. She's the one who killed the mayor. Winnie is trapped in a version of Angel Falls where nobody remembers her, and the mayor has been able to continue his killings, forcing Winnie to act to set things right. What did you think of it?
Well, Geraldine, I don't know about you, what your opinions of the film are, if you like it or not. I thought this movie was exceptionally bad. It was quite a ride. And it's kind of difficult for me sometimes to figure out like how much of that was intentional and how much wasn't. But I think it does cross the threshold of like, it's so bad that it's entertaining. Like it's so bad that it's good. Yeah. And I think it really does land that mark. There are a lot of scenes that are very questionable. Like, why would this happen in this scenario? Or some of the cliches are just like so thorough, like especially between the relationship amongst Winnie and Bernie. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot of things that go on between those characters that don't line up. Like, or simply just like, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here for a second, but like there's a part of the movie where, you know, this film is a retelling of a classic story.
It is. And it's A Wonderful Life. It's obviously a play on words because that movie's called A Wonderful Life, and this one is A Wonderful Knife, being that this one's going to be about killings and Christmas killings, essentially. So in the original, it's an angel that's sent from heaven to help a desperately frustrated businessman named George Bailey by showing him what life would have been like if he had never existed. And that's a really good movie. It's a really sad movie. But this one has a different kind of take on it. There are a lot of things that it does right. There are a lot of things it does wrong. But the well-known thing from It's a Wonderful Life is a saying that happens like when a kid, it's later in the film, a kid is putting an ornament on a tree. And she says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Well, in this movie, their tagline, similar to that, every time a bell rings, an angel gets to kill. So I thought it was fun. But
well, you know, in reference to that movie, it's a well-known movie. It's a well-known film. And in this film, it's kind of obvious, you know, before you even come to watch the movie, you know, based on the title, but also when it finally happens and Winnie is like transported into this world where she never existed, it takes her like nearly like half an hour to understand that. And like the way she acts out, like she's in a bedroom and she sits down and she's like, wait, oh my God. I'm in a world where I never existed. And to me, it was like, duh, girl. Like, where have you been for the last half an hour? And it's like small little tidbits like that where it kind of feels like people are overreaching whatever emotional situation they're going to be put in like such an obvious way that it makes the movie not just campy, but like just bad. And like I said, I don't know where the line is on like how much of it was intentional. Yeah. Either way, it was entertaining.
It was an entertaining movie. So I agree with you. I think it's campy and it's meant to be cheesy and corny, but that also comes with the territory that is every Christmas movie ever. A lot of the times you can't watch a Christmas movie and there be like no, I don't know, like bad dialogue, anything like that. It's kind of similar to when we watched Pilgrim. Like, they all were like, you have to be grateful. Like, there was that, like, reoccurring theme and stuff where it's like, obviously, we know Thanksgiving is about showing gratitude, things like that. So they kind of take that dialogue and twist it in itself, obviously, regarding Christmas. So it's just really stupid, but in a good way, I guess, because I don't ever go in thinking, oh, man, this Christmas movie is going to blow my mind. Never. I go in there thinking it's going to be campy but also it's a slasher. So I feel like similar to like in the Scream territory, those movies are very campy, but they're also more well done than this one. But this one is just because it's Christmas on top of the camp that is already a slasher film. I think it kind of gives it a pass. The dialogue was horrendous, but I loved it in the sense as well because while the comedy, some of it is difficult to land, I will say. Like, I feel like I caught myself laughing at moments that other people were not laughing at. And because there were, like, 10 other people in the theater, I felt like, this is awkward. But it's just because, I don't know, maybe it's because of me.
So what did you think about the film generally?
I thought it was fun. I definitely would watch it again. Like, I would probably add it to my list of movies that I love. Is it amazing? Absolutely not. Is it, like, did I have fun watching it? Yeah, it was a fun movie. Is it bad, though? No, it's not bad. It doesn't have bad production quality. It doesn't have bad, like, kills or anything. Like, there are practical effects that are fun. The thought that went into, like, the costume and stuff. It's really, really cool. I really liked a lot of things that they did. But, again, it's not the worst. It's not the best. Yeah. It's kind of in an okay territory. But we'll definitely get to a rating later. Okay. We'll do, like, a letter grade, I think.
I agree with you. I agree with you on a lot of those thoughts.
But yeah, let's kind of talk about Winnie, her life before the killing, and her life after she wishes she wasn't born. What do you think about her life before? Like,
you know, Winnie, this is another story where it's another one of those teenager things where it's like, oh, it's Christmas, let's go to school, let's hang out. You know, there's football players, there's, you know, this whole schmuck. So I think her life before was pretty adequate. They live in a nice house. They have one of those TV movie sibling relationships where they're like, hey sis,
hey bro,
and then like rubs the hair.
I hate it.
Yeah, they have one of those going on. So they really set the scene up to be as like, I don't know, suburban middle class family as possible.
And I like that it takes place in like this small town, but everyone's kind of like, well, like everyone knows each other, that kind of thing. Yeah. That doesn't typically happen, I would say.
Well, I don't know. I don't live in that environment, so I actually think it does happen quite a bit.
Maybe not.
Do we know like what part of the world this film takes place in?
I don't know, but I know their little town is called Angel Falls.
Right. Yeah, I wonder where it is. That's a great name for a town.
It is a great name for a town, but I have zero idea where it takes place in the U.S.
It feels very northeastern to me.
Yes, it does.
So I'm not sure. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, pretty average life, and I think she is very miserable though. She hates her life.
Yeah, but I think that's also like part of that teen angst. You typically are always like, oh, life is terrible. And it's like, girl, you're dramatic.
She is very dramatic, yeah. That's a part of it. And then when everything goes down, when, you know, the mayor goes on his killing spree, it's hard to tell. I think there's two opinions on like traumatic events like this. Like, do you cling on and acknowledge everything that's happened, or do you try to move on?
Yeah.
And she just cannot move on. I mean, her best friend passed away.
But I mean, it's kind of like in Scream, where like the year before, her mom got brutally killed, and I think also like sexually assaulted as well. And Billy Loomis was like, just move on already.
Yeah,
and
let's get it on.
What? Like, I think a year passing, like a year is like that. And it never really dawned on me how quick time passes until like this year, 2023. What the fuck is it? Because I blinked and it's already almost done.
Yeah. You're another year older.
Yeah. It's absolutely bonkers to me because we're already approaching Christmas time. It is the end times of the year. And I'm like, bro, we just started the year.
It's about to be 2024.
It's supposed to be 2024.
Yeah.
And my mind is shook because time is nothing. So like for somebody to be like, move on.
It goes quicker the older you get. Like every year is shorter.
Because the closer to the death we get, you know?
It makes sense mathematically because people say like when you're 1 year old, right?
Yeah.
A year is like your lifetime. So
right.
like that 1 year took forever. But every year, a year is incrementally a smaller fraction of your life.
It's crazy because I just don't feel like time has ever gone as fast as it has until now. And, you know, I've now reached my quarter life. You know, I'm 25 years old, which is also crazy because I feel way older, but I know that in my brain I'm still like 20. So
yeah, in my brain I'm still like 16.
It's crazy because
it is crazy.
We're closer to 30 than we are.
Are you excited to like turn 30, you know, get older?
You know, 30 flirty and thriving, you mean? Yeah. Absolutely, because you know, 13 going on 30. That was a great movie, and I hear that your 30s are way better than your 20s. So
I hear often that, like, you know, there used to be a midlife crisis, and you know, while that's still a thing, there's starting to be a lot of quarter life crisis going on.
I get it.
Where people like freaking out either about like their just existence, their mortality, as well as like what they're doing with their lives at this point.
Well, life is unexpected, so I understand. But your teens, it feels like the end of the world, whereas quarter life, you're like, what am I doing? Who am I?
Yeah, it's a point of reflection. I don't know if you ever heard about, like, I think it's Saturn's return, or it might be Jupiter's return, but it's like there's only like 3 or 4 times in your life that it happens, and one of them is around 25 to 30.
Why?
And what it is like it's this moment of reflection for you. And a lot of times these are like make or break times of your life. Like decisions around these times are going to affect a large portion of your life going forward. And I kind of believe in that just because, you know, the last couple of years I've felt that way, where like I'm like, oh wow, like I'm alive. Like from like when my teenage years, I feel like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, and it's okay, I don't know what's going on. I got my whole life to live. But now I'm like, I gotta figure it out.
It's tough being as young as we are, but also feeling like we're a lot older as well.
It's just a lot of people. I think people in their 20s aren't allowed to feel young anymore.
Yeah, because like you know that you're young, but at the same time you're not as young as you once were.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about these actors, like I'm thinking about Winnie and Bernie, and I'm like, They're in movies.
Yeah, they're in movies.
What the hell am I doing?
I literally have had these like things in my head like that recently. But you know what? Life is unexpected. And, we are very young and we have our whole lives ahead of us, quite literally. So we need to get out of that, like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because
you're right.
We got time, bro. We got time.
So you're on like, let's move on. Let's keep it pushing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I understand losing your best friend to that and how that would be like really traumatic. And also finding out that it was the mayor and then you had to kill him.
Yeah. Now that is interesting. Like, I never think about that much. Like for you, Geraldine, I know you for a fact, you wouldn't be like Winnie.
No.
You'd be like, oh, that MFer had it coming.
Oh, no. I'd probably have nightmares about it every single night.
You'd have no issue murdering a criminal.
No. I would absolutely have issue because I've never
have dreams of pleasure.
I've never killed a person. I think I've clearly. Thing, I've never killed a person, so
I've never gone sky jumping.
But I've also like never like I accidentally hit an animal driving, and that made me cry my eyes out because I felt really bad. Especially I don't like killing buggies. I try to save every bug that I can. Yeah. I saved a teeny tiny ladybug today from my cats because I didn't want it to die. My cats will absolutely kill it.
We've had discussion before, and it's really hard for me. Yeah. I remember one time I was coming into work.
Okay.
And there was two birds fighting, and obviously one of them looked like it was about to kill the other bird.
No.
And I stopped them from fighting. And in doing so, I was like, I just didn't want to watch this little bird die.
Right.
But at the same time, I just took the food away from this other bird and its babies. So now maybe the babies are dead. You know what I mean?
Oh my
so
God.
It's like there's no winning.
There's always like a consequence no matter what it is. So it's really scary. But no, I would not feel okay killing somebody. I would literally have nightmares about it. I'd think about it constantly. Like I'm always in my head. So like the fact that like in this age in our time in our lives, being in our 20s, we're constantly in a state of reflection. I'm like, please let me get out of my head for once.
Oh man, but people are like that. I think I'm an overthinker, overanalyzer, but there's people out there that are just completely oblivious. And we've talked about people in like movie theaters recently and their actions, and people who are like just inconsiderate. Well, honestly, those are the people who probably live happier lives.
They probably live happier because they're not thinking about their
worried about the world.
They're not thinking about their actions.
They're just being happy, living in the moment, doing what they want to do.
But to me, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I would never do that.
And I'm stressed out all the dang time.
All the time. I'm a chronic stressor. Yeah. And I know stress is bad for you. And you know what? It'll probably kill me.
Yeah, it's killing you right now.
Killing me right now. Thinking about it. Thinking about my stress that I have. But yeah, poor Winnie. Beforehand, she's got like a life made. Afterwards, she's got like not a lot going for her. Her boyfriend cheats on her, which I saw coming. I'm not going to lie. It was very predictable. Like I said, slashers are predictable.
And I get that. I mean, honestly, he shouldn't have done that. He should have gotten out of the relationship earlier because he knew it was going to happen, amount to anything. But I mean, they're teens. They don't know what's going on.
That's kind of the time to make those kinds of mistakes. Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, it does impact you later, of course. Like, you don't think about it. But again, they're probably not thinking about it.
No,
they're probably just thinking.
You're just doing.
Like, just doing it.
Yeah.
But, like, horrible. So I feel really bad for Winnie. I understand why she gets to this point. I've gotten to that point sometimes where, have you ever reached that point where you're just like, I might as well cheat. I'm in a position where like I'm not happy in my relationship. I've never personally, but I've known. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about, have you ever reached a point in your life where you're like, man, everyone would be better off if I was never born, or it would be so much easier if I didn't exist because living is expensive. Like any situation like that where you get in your head and you're like, I wonder what life would be like if I weren't here.
I mean, email was a big thing, a big part of my life.
Email?
So like email, yeah.
Oh, emo. Yeah. I thought you said email. I was like, what are you, emo. Like 40?
I don't send a lot of emails. Mostly my email is like just a box for coupons.
Love coupons.
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, that
another sign we're getting old is that we're excited about coupons.
Yeah, man, it's expensive.
We love a good sale.
See, I love it when I didn't have to worry about bills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Winnie clearly does not because she lives at home with her parents.
Yeah, in a nice house.
In a nice house.
Yeah. Very ungrateful for her PJs.
Okay, we'll get to that because they're horrendous. So let's talk about the town before and after Winnie's wish. Like, what did you think of the town beforehand? It seemed like it was cute, cozy. Everyone was around. Really.
I disagree. I think it looked very plain. The budget for the set wasn't that high, obviously. And afterwards, it looks exactly the same, except with just some like 4x4s.
Like vandalism is what it looks like. Mm-hmm. It looks disgusting.
It kind of gets to a comedic point because there are people like outside putting their hands on a fire and like an
as
oil
if
barrel.
Like resembling like people experiencing homelessness or anything like that. Like, oh, they've chosen this life over that. Or like, I don't know. It's assumed to me in my brain like the mayor put them out, obviously. So like because obviously it was just kind of leading into like the next discussion point that I wanted to talk about was like the deeper message of the film, because there are like two different messages to me that were really obvious. One being a capitalistic kind of a gentrification approach where he's like taking out all of these businesses because he wants to build a monopoly of himself, which is crazy. But I mean,
still, that's what Christmas is. Like a lot of these companies, every holiday has like, how many people buy candy for Halloween and Valentine's Day? These companies are making out bank. Some people say that Hallmark is the one that invented Valentine's Day, and they only invented it to sell cards.
I love a good card. Sometimes the cards put your words together better than you can, and I appreciate it because sometimes the brain is in my way.
Right.
But on top of that, another deep message that we get is with Bernie, being that like you don't have anybody. The Christmas, like the holiday season in general, is a hard time for a lot of people. It's a high season for depression, and it's a high season for unfortunately suicides.
That's true.
It was really like a wholesome movie at the end of it all, because it's a message that's like, hey, like just because people appear a certain way, you never know what's going on with them ever.
Yeah, I will say the execution of this is very like second priority.
Well, yeah, because they throw it. It's like they were like, "Oh shit, we gotta here." It's not. Yeah, it's not about her. It's about her.
Yeah. So the thought of it is very nice.
It is very nice.
It's not really like, I don't know. It's not really woven into the narrative very well.
I agree. It's not. But I really liked the message because at the end of it, I was like, "Oh, like it really did warm my heart." It was a sweet message where you're like, you don't know what anyone's going through. Every person needs somebody. Like it's a lot of things like that, like togetherness and involving people. Like, and also like the idea of It's a Wonderful Life in comparison with It's a Wonderful Life is that your existence matters, and that's the overall message. And that's super cool and in more like what's the word? Enriching?
For sure, yeah. It's not true, of course. Not everybody's life matters, but it is nice to think about it in that way.
Whose life doesn't matter?
I'm not sure, but if you don't have a lot of friends or family, like nobody's gonna notice if you're gone.
That's terrible. We don't want to put that message out there.
The world is a terrible place.
Oh my God. I was hoping you were going to say things like, I don't know, like child killers, pedos, rapists, things like that. Like those lives, I'm on board.
Your upbringing makes you who you are. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. I think there are also other things. What doesn't kill you
makes you stronger.
Oh my God. Please. Please. Okay, moving on. So there are a lot of holiday references in this movie.
Mariah Carey song, isn't it? No, Kelly Clarkson. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Since You've Been Gone. I was like, I don't think that was in this movie.
Oh, wow. What the hell?
I don't know. But also, LOL, Since You've Been Gone, because, she did wish herself away, kind of. But how well-versed are you on holiday movies?
Okay. Let me count them. Not well. I haven't seen many.
Okay.
Not really. I do have a favorite Christmas movie.
Please tell me.
I didn't grow up watching Christmas movies. I've talked about before, like being an immigrant.
Yeah.
And just not having a lot of experience with like traditional American events, including Christmas. So we didn't watch any Christmas movies at home ever.
Oh my gosh! Really?
Yeah. They're just different cultures, man.
But you guys don't celebrate Christmas?
We did, but like it took us a while to like come around to everything. It's mostly just for the kids, like Thanksgiving especially. Yeah. Like we do not do that in Mexico. So like the Thanksgiving thing is like. But
also Thanksgiving's kind of a hit or miss kind of holiday, like thematically speaking, and the origins of it. Yeah. But
so is Christmas. Like Christmas has a lot of religious stuff behind it. So, and my mom also has this like thought process of like you should give people like presents whenever you feel like it, and not just like saving it for this one day because you have to, because it's religion, because it's a holiday or whatever.
I like that.
She just feels like you should be able to do that whenever.
Yeah.
We shouldn't just feel kind and compassion for one day a year.
Yeah, just because like you're thinking of them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I will say I do love the Christmas spirit, but a lot of it is that, and a lot of people get stressed out about like buying gifts for people.
Do you get stressed out? Because I do.
Oh, I get super stressed out. So I understand not liking all that comes along with it. I know like the movies kind of show it like it's this other thing, but in reality, I feel like a lot of Christmas is that like negative side. Unfortunately,
I really want to see a Christmas movie where they really just embody like the stress that comes with it. Like it's not fun for a lot of people. Yeah. Like it's just like I want to see that, and then maybe like I don't know. At the end, they're all like, "Ah, oh, fuck it," and they don't celebrate it.
My favorite Christmas movie is kind of like that. And it's a film that I watched 2 years ago.
Okay.
Because my girlfriend's parents love the film, and they love a lot of these older Christmas films. But it's Christmas Vacation.
Oh.
Quite a great film. And in that film, it's a lot like that. It's a lot of stress. A lot of stress. Unwanted people coming over. Money that you didn't end up getting that you deserve.
The pressure to host everyone, make sure everyone's happy. That's ridiculous.
Everything just exceedingly goes wrong. Like you're so excited for like this light fixture for this presentation, and it simply doesn't happen, and everything is going wrong. Like until the very end, it's just like a little snippet of joy.
Right. It's such a good time though, because I love that movie. It's a classic. You can't go wrong with it. Like Cousin Eddie is one of my favorite characters from that movie.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure because it's very relatable for you.
Oh my fucking God.
Given your background.
No, it's just because he's funny.
Yeah, I understand why you think he's funny.
I shouldn't have said anything. Did you pick up on these references at all in the movie?
What references?
Okay, well, we have a lot of them that I had to like actually give it some thought, so we'll talk about it. So some of the fun holiday references that I caught in this movie, which, by the way, we actually have, not only is this movie like based on It's a Wonderful Life, so it's a humongous reference. There's also another movie that's kind of about making wishes that they use as an influence in this film that we're actually going to play a clip right here to talk about it. But yeah, it's about another movie that they used to bring reference.
All right.
Yeah, me too, man. Once you kind of read the concept, you're like, oh man, that's so obvious. Like, why doesn't this exist? And Michael Kennedy is very good at that. Like he did it with Freaky, with the kind of body swap kind of movies. But there's a handful of them. Like one of the references for us was this movie called Mr. Destiny, which is like this little Jim Belushi movie from the 90s where he wishes that he had hit this baseball and becomes like, and then sees what his life was like if he like went pro and was married and had expansion and stuff, and so it's like this very kind of different thing, like the kind of nightmare reality of like a wish gone wrong, I think is something that comes back again and again in pop culture. And even It's a Wonderful Life itself is a riff on Christmas Carol, and so I thought that we should be about as beholden to It's a Wonderful Life as a Christmas Carol, or as it is to A Christmas Carol. So that way we were sort of free to kind of like not necessarily follow the same structure, and as long as we have that kind of something that's inspired by that same sort of conceit, we can do almost anything we want. And we wanted to have the structure so that we spend a lot of time in the fun and games of this nightmare world, whereas It's a Wonderful Life doesn't really do that. You only see that kind of section of it right at the end.
Right.
And so we I think worked on like the balance of that and try to figure out what that's meant for structure. But people seem to really respond to the high concept of it.
Mr. Destiny. I didn't even know what that movie was. They used that as a big inspiration where he wished like he could see what his life was if he like hit this bat, like a baseball, like with a bat, and
Right. It's tragic, Geraldine. Like we don't know. We're often faced with like, do I do this? Do I do that? What happens? And we make a decision, and we never know. What would happen if we went the other way? Is
like in life, that's something that we do. Is we're constantly making decisions, and every decision has a different consequence, reaction, anything like that.
The butterfly effect.
The butterfly. Mm-hmm. Said it weird. But I'm sure you did that on purpose. But it's crazy because we do that and we watch it in movies or we read it in books where we have like interactive things or video games where you get to actually make the decisions. And it's like, bro, we do that anyway. But we get more excited when we're choosing somebody else's life, I guess.
I often get a lot of flack from Bailey I don't know if you watch any TikTok lives. I find myself often watching a TikTok live. I'll be scrolling through it. It'll be like somebody doing something random. Mm-hmm. I'll click on it. And then if you keep scrolling, you'll see other people doing random stuff.
There's one that I've passed recently. It was called Please Wake Me Up. And it was like this person sleeping on a live stream and they have like creepy things behind them. I don't like it.
Yeah, it sounds scary. Well, the ones that I typically find myself watching the most are people who are working in a kitchen. A lot of people who work at like Wendy's or McDonald's will live stream during their shift. And I'm just utterly fascinated by watching people at McDonald's like make the food. And I'll watch it for a long time. And Bailey's always like, why are you watching that stuff? Like you spend all day cooking in a kitchen and this is what you want to watch? And I'm like, yeah.
You know what's so funny though is like somebody who has worked like customer service and like the food industry a lot. I love playing food games.
Me too.
Like I love playing food games. Like there's this game that I love. It's called Lemon Cake. And it's a stressful fucking game. You are one person and you are not only harvesting in the back of the restaurant for like, you know, blueberries and getting milk from the cows and getting eggs from your chickens to make your bakery stuff, but you also have to serve the people in the front. You also have to cook the stuff in the kitchen and make sure it's cooking. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. I like those games too. I remember.
But I love it.
Back in the day on this website called YA Games, it's a bunch of Flash games. There was one where it's like a bartender and, you know, I was like 12. I don't know how to bartend, but it was like you mix different stuff. And like it'll give you points based on like how well you did the proportions and stuff like that.
That's really cool.
And there's a really popular game franchise that I didn't know about, but Bailey put me on, and it's just like called Daddy whatever. And so
Papa's?
It's like
Is it
Papa's Pizzeria.
Yes,
stuff like
I actually have the app of Papa's Cupcakeria on my phone. I love it so much.
My favorite ones are hot dogs. If I could sell hot dogs, that's so fun because then you put the bun, then you put the hot dog in, then you put the mustard on, or this other asshole wants ketchup instead. You know, I love, and you collect the money, and I don't know why that stuff is so fun to me.
So fascinating. I don't know why, because I think it's I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the familiarness and like the fun rush that it brings. But anyway.
Or maybe we just like misery.
Maybe we like misery. Yeah. That's another thing. But yeah, some of the other fun holiday references in this movie. So obviously a Christmas, it's a Wonderful Life, the big Christmas movie, the overarching one that it's a play on words. Christmas Carol, which also is fascinating to know that It's a Wonderful Life is a riff on Christmas Carol in itself as well. Well, but that also is like kind of an obvious theme because if you've watched the original or you've watched this one, it's showing you what your life would be like if you didn't exist, or like how your life is impacted if, you know, or how you impact others' lives, essentially.
I've never seen any of these.
What? Oh my God.
I've never seen A Christmas Story, It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas Carol. I've never seen Home Alone either.
We need to have a movie night where we just do Christmas movies, have Christmas cookies, have hot chocolate.
Yes.
All of the things.
I'd fall asleep though.
No, you wouldn't, because I promise you wouldn't, because I'll have it set up with all my Christmas trees, all the fun little lights. And of course, you'd just be watching it, and then you'd be like, wow, these movies are influential, and I'm just not watching them. And now I love them.
The one thing I will say, I've heard that It's a Wonderful Life, the original film, is quite boring. I know it's in black and white.
It's really nice, though. It's a really cool movie. I actually made Patrick watch it because I watched it previously. The first time I ever watched it was for when I was in college. I did a little TV show, like it was APSU TV. It was called The Verdict, and we reviewed movies. And for our Christmas episode, we did It's a Wonderful Life and a couple of other ones. And it was a really good time. And I was like, you know, I've never seen this one, so I'll choose to do that one. And I watched it, and it was so enjoyable.
Did Patrick like it?
Yeah, he thought it was pretty solid. But I think overall, he thought it was kind of boring because it was black and white.
It's older.
I like black and white movies. That's just kind of the thing.
I do quite a few, like Hitchcock films.
Yeah, I enjoy stuff like that. But one of another big ones that was really apparent is in the movie. You talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to bring it back up. Is the tracksuit that her parents gift her. Winnie gets a tracksuit, and it is an all pink, like jacket and pants, like a little tracksuit.
Very Mean Girls era.
Very Mean Girls era, but also it's kind of a reference to A Christmas Story, because if you've ever watched A Christmas Story, which you just said you haven't, there is a really fun part where they're opening gifts, and he gets a gift from his aunt, and it's a pink bunny suit. And they're like, go put it on. And it's a young boy. And they're like, go put it on. And he's like, she thinks I'm a girl. And
no, it's dope.
It's actually, it looks cozy. I want one.
I would love one.
It looks so cozy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put it on. And she's like, go put it on. Yeah.
That was a different era, though.
Definitely
yeah,
different
that
era.
was like, gay's a bad thing times. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, yeah. But it's also, things are a little bit more like, boy girl, more separate than exactly. Now it's a little bit more in the middle where you can kind of, there are things that are so like boy like geared toys, boy geared things.
I just went to Target and all the I went through looking at all the girls' clothes, all the boys' clothes. All the boys' clothes are lame. bunch of t-shirts, pants.
Yeah.
But girls, they got like these like cool, like big saggy pants. You know what I mean?
They got like the...
And like all these different kinds of tops, there's styles.
Yeah.
And you got nothing for the boys.
Big sad, you know?
Just t-shirts and jeans.
Well, you know what? The boys can wear what they want to wear.
That's right.
They can wear the girls'
Not back
clothes
then,
too.
though. Back then,
it
was
a little bit different.
Yeah.
They might have gotten beat up for it, which is terrible. But
and that's why you didn't want the pink bunny suit.
We are entering a new era, and that's okay. But back then, it made for a funny like scene in a movie because it's endearing. He doesn't want to put it on. They make him put it on. He comes out and he's just wearing this cute little pink bunny outfit. Adorable.
Who does not think
and
that?
Of course, the mom's like, "Oh my God, you look precious," and the dad's like, "You look like a pink nightmare." And it's so funny.
Yeah.
And they actually redid this. Well, they redid it. I say lightly. They kind of brought back that movie. They made one last year called A Christmas Story Christmas. So it's this like a lot of the same actors who were kids in that movie come back as adults. And
did the parents come back for the film?
I think they had both passed, unfortunately. So they did a different take on it, or like the mom from the like I think they both actually passed, but they have somebody else playing the mom in this one. So it's still cute. A little bit sad that they couldn't get them or that they had passed, but I understand things happen, circumstances happen where you can't control that. But it was still endearing to see them all come back because I was like, oh man, I grew up watching this like every year on like whatever channel Christmas Story was on all day long on repeat.
Well, I thought the pink bunny suit was cute, and I also think this pink tracksuit's pretty cute.
It's not the worst, but I think it's really funny though. Is that I don't remember exactly what was said, but it was something about like I think Winnie may have said something like, I feel like this is something that lesbians would wear or something.
That's so funny.
And then like her aunt, who was also a lesbian with her partner nearby, was like,
nah, that's all you, buddy.
Yeah, we don't wear that. I thought it was really funny. A lot of homosexuality in this movie.
Yeah, lots of it.
A lot of queerness.
Between the gay aunts, between the gay brother.
Yes.
By the end of the story, we got a gay relationship.
I loved it. I loved it so much.
You love gay people.
Yeah, you're
a big time ally.
I'm a big time ally.
There she is. Look at her.
There you go. It was a good time. Also, Home Alone. I feel like this reference is a little bit more of a stretch.
Okay.
Of a stretch. Because in Home Alone, the kids are scared of this neighbor guy who goes out and shovels the snow. And they, like, make up rumors. You know how kids are.
Yeah.
When you make up rumors about people and you're like, that guy's killed somebody with a snow shovel. And that's what he does is he's using the snow salt. And, like they like make up crazy rumors, and they're all like, "Oh my God!" Well, later in the movie, he like comes face to face with that creepy guy that he's so scared of, and he's not creepy at all. He's not scary at all. He's actually a really sweet man.
That's what it is. It's all perception, you know.
It's all perception, and that's kind of what I think is like a nice kind of thing in this movie that they do. And I think again, it's a little bit more on the back burner. It's not maybe something that's super duper obvious, but with Bernie, they go to this house party. And this is where the killing happens. It's a house party, and Bernie is there, and Winnie has like a weird like interest in her, and then her friends bully her. So then she's like, "No, never mind. I'm not gonna go talk to her." And they all call her weirdo, which is really horrible. And then come to find out later, when she made this horrible wish, she gets to like nobody believes her at this party. None of her friends. They've all like got their own thing going because of the wish that she made. Her brother's dead. Her friend is dead. So many other people died that like she didn't even know, and it was because she wasn't alive, quote unquote. But the only person who actually listened to her and believed her semi at first was Bernie. So then they end up becoming friends, and it was a really really cute.
I did have some alarms going off as soon as you see Bernie, because I'm like, this is another one of those situations where like obviously this character is autistic coded, and you know we talked earlier in the year about other characters, like when we watch Trick or Treat, and like I always assume the worst. Like same thing whenever I see like characters in a wheelchair, I'm like, as soon as they pop on screen, I'm like, man, they're gonna handle this improperly. But I think they did a decent enough job.
Yeah, they did, and especially people who have any sort of neurodivergence, a lot of the time get branded as these outsiders a lot because they're not within the neurotypical or how people would typically behave situation. So it is a really sad realization when you're like, man, Bernie is like, she has no friends just because people think she's weird, but it's just based on perception. She's actually a very cool kind of gal. and she's got a lot of cool aspirations. I love her job. Her family owns a movie theater, and that's a really cool job. I would love to own a movie theater. That would just be a fun kind of thing. Like, I already love movies. To own a theater, that's a goal of mine. Whether it's a home theater in my house that I can share with my friends and family, or it's an actual theater that people could come.
I've always thought of it from a business perspective. Like, okay, you got a bucket full of popcorn. What if you got a bucket full of chicken nuggets? Or a bucket full of French fries.
Or fried chicken. I don't know, you said bucket, so my brain just went to popcorn, and then I also think of something that's in a bucket. No, it's not.
During a movie? No.
But what's the difference between a chicken nugget and, like, fried chicken,
Fried chicken has bones, Sherilyn. In the movie theater, you're cramped up in this little spot. You don't have time to dig through that. Where are you going to put it? You got to put it back in the bucket with the other chicken nuggets. You just throw it in your mouth.
But these places are selling nachos. Yeah. It's messy.
It does. It's not, my argument isn't a messy argument. It's just like it's inconvenient, But
you just throw the bones back in the bucket and you just keep eating the.
Well, then you grab another bone. Oh, that's a bone. I already ate that. Oh, the saliva's still on it. Oh, see.
But it's your saliva.
You just get the chicken nuggets or the French fries. Get a bowl of French fries.
That makes more sense, I guess. But I mean, I'm still down for some fried chicken. I like fried chicken. Okay.
I know you do. I know your background. You like that Southern fried chicken, don't you?
Some other cool references that are not holiday related. Some horror references. Did you notice any horror movies that you kind of like that were like in the ringer that you were like, this reminds me of this horror movie? Because I had some moments like that.
No, not really. Though I did find it really interesting that like the big villain of the movie, besides the obvious one, was the Areolas Borealis. I thought that it was so random.
It was random. Yeah. Oh, that also reminds me of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So another weird reference, because at the end when they're like, "Oh look at this."
Oh, they see the areolas.
But then it just makes me think of, what the fuck is his name? He's the old guy, and he's like he smoked a cigar, but he's the one who's like the blessing. That guy who's got that really scratchy voice. I can't remember his name.
He's got a toupee.
Huh? Yeah. And he's smoking a cigar, and then he ends up,
Yeah.
It's so fun. And then they all like sing
it's like the national
the national anthem. It was really, really random. I love that movie. It's so funny. Play ball at the end. Yeah. Perfect. That'll be me as an old lady. I love it. She wrapped up her cat. That's gonna be me. Let's be honest.
Over there with Jackie somewhere.
Jackie or Sally. But I'm just kidding. I would never regift them. They're my babies. They're stuck with me. But yeah, so obviously I recognized immediately that this movie had a lot of Scream vibes. I don't know if you noticed that at all.
Not particularly. I mean, the main character does share a visual similarity to...
Ghostface?
No, the main character, Winnie.
Oh, Winnie. Oh, yeah, like Drew Barrymore's character. Yeah. Casey.
Yeah, I think they look kind of alike, but that's about it.
I didn't even notice that one, but you know what? That's really smart. Another thing that I noticed, though, is that the killer, it's like an angel. Like an angel of death, essentially. It kind of gave me Scream vibes because it's got like this, creepy face. You can definitely see some eye holes at some point. And
I never saw any eyes. The whole movie, I was like, how does he see out of that thing? It looked like a solid
You need
mask.
to look at the mask again. Look at the mask again. I promise. It's got
Maybe if I took a magnifying glass or something.
It's got eye holes.
Or like enhance the image on my screen.
Obviously, it looks foggy.
I think
it's supposed to be.
You don't really notice it when you're watching it in the theater.
You know what it's supposed to resemble, though? It's just supposed to resemble like tree toppers, like angels, because a lot of the time, if you ever grew up looking at those, a lot of the times they didn't have like faces or anything. Yeah.
Oh, they did a really bad job of making it look like one, I gotta say, because it doesn't really look like one at all. Boy. Like I can get it, like you could be like, okay.
Oh my god, you stressed me out. Okay, so anyway, Scream, creepy mask, hooded cloak. There you go, Scream kind of vibe. Scream. That is not a stretch. And he also uses a knife. A knife.
What slasher doesn't use a knife? That's why it's called a slasher. They all use knives, man.
So we're now gonna play a clip about how they designed the cool Angel of Death.
Typical slashers are, you have dark colors, usually because they're like supposed to be stalking people and hiding in the shadows and stuff. And we thought it'd be kind of fun if he's like because he's written in the script as like wearing white, and so I thought it'd be kind of fun to try and hide him in snow and like next to white buildings and things like that, and because there's something very creepy to me about like kind of like a new like a blank kind of neutral expression, and so that's what we sort of started to run towards, and we started to pull references and kind of try out different concepts, and I worked very closely with Mateo, our costume designer, to figure that stuff out, and we ultimately kind of found this sort of inspiration with kind of classic kind of angel tree toppers, a lot of which have these very blank faces. And we wanted to be a bit of a texture, kind of similar to like a frosted light bulb. So you can kind of see like Christmas lights reflected in it. And but on that, it's just like stark white. And then also you can have it covered in blood and stuff like that. And it gives you some other opportunities. And then it just became a question of like, oh, well, how does he move? And, like who's going to be in the costume? And like, how do we kind of split the difference of like the heights and stuff like that and figuring out the logistical stuff. And then also we wanted the knife itself, because the movie's called It's a Wonderful Knife. We had to, we're going to hang our hat on that very specifically. And so we wanted to have that be a unique kind of ornate kind of look. And we came up with that, our production designer, Tiana, came up with that very winged kind of design, which has been a big part of what people have gravitated towards in the marketing and everything.
Yeah, it's very interesting hearing him talk about specifically splitting the height. Because in the film, we do get two different people of two varying heights. And
because Joel McHale is a tall guy.
Yeah, and Justin Long isn't quite as tall.
Which is a spoiler, sorry.
Well, I mean, come on. If you're listening to this far, you should...
Yeah, you should have been gone, I guess. Yeah. But whatever.
But anyway, just the idea of, like, they're probably not underneath the mask throughout any part of, like, the chase scenes or anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, just production value and also, like, budget. You probably would rather pay like a much smaller amount to somebody else to be under the mask, especially you don't see their face, unless it's during a scene where like they get unmasked or something.
Which is kind of similar to Scream, again, because a lot of the time in those movies, it is not the actual character, the characters themselves under that. It is typically just for the unmasking parts. But yeah, so that was one reference. Another one that I noticed with the camera clicking, which there are a lot of movies that do this, but specifically the only one that I could personally think of was a movie called Shudder, in which it is about cameras. And he captures ghosts in photos, and it's like based on like a crazy plot that I don't want to go into because I don't want to spoil the movie, but that's what my brain went to with Shudder. Somebody also mentioned that it sounded similar to like Texas Chainsaw because of the camera shutter, which I was like, oh yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah. Though I will say that movie does it way better than this film.
Yeah.
This film is just like flashing disco lights.
Oh god, it was a lot. It was a lot because I was like, oh, but also gave me a lot of anxiety. It was fun for that aspect because you're like, oh god, where are they going to be? Are they going to be there? Are they going to be there?
Out of the film, if I'm being honest. Like I saw the effect they were trying to give.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's been done before and it wasn't done quite as well in this one.
Well, I mean, that's also due to it being a little bit of a lower budget, but I think that it did what it needed to do, I guess. Another reference that I caught was House of Wax. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but that's where my brain went.
I think we have one in Nashville, in Opry Mills.
Yeah, Madame Tussauds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool situation with wax and stuff. It's like a weird hobby that people have where they make wax figures out of people. Hobby. I mean, it's cool. I mean, weird. But it is kind of a little strange, I would say. I mean, like, you could be making candles, but you're making people like statues. I don't like statues. It's weird. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a disconnect there for me because it's like I can appreciate the hobby and the art and the work that goes into it, but it's also like, on the other hand, stay the F away from me. I've seen House of Wax.
That's a bad birthday gift for you. Like, hey, look, I got you.
Like a statue that's made of wax? Absolutely not. I would punch it in the head. But House of Wax, there's a scene in that movie where there's a movie theater and there's a bunch of like people who are made of wax in this theater, and they're like real people are hiding with like in between these wax people to make it look like they're in the theater. Well, in this movie, they do that but opposite, where they pretend like they get these mannequins and dress them up to make it look like it's them, but there's no one else in the theater. And until stupid what's her face and the ex-boyfriend show up because they're like, this was where we had our first date, and I'm like, oh god. So then it goes south. But that reminded me of House of Wax because of the having the people there in place, to kind of like trick the killer. So it was a fun little reference. And then of course I kind of thought of Texas Chainsaw, the 2022 one that we just recently watched, because of the capitalism and gentrification of the town.
I could see that.
especially with it being a small town and you're like buying out all of these like small businesses,
right, making it into your own thing,
your
I
monopoly.
Yeah.
It made me think of that. But again, those are kind of some less obvious ones. But other than that, so let's talk about some of the cons of this movie. What are some of the things that you don't like? Like, what are the critiques that you have? Here's what I'm seeing online, kind of thing. Like, we're gonna talk about it all.
Okay. Well, can you give one personal critique of mine personally? It's dumb.
Okay.
That's it.
What do you mean?
It's just kind of dumb.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's not really a critique.
Okay, like go on. Give me something somebody's been saying online.
Okay. People actually, I've seen this in a couple of places. They feel like Bernie and Winnie being a couple was like stupid.
I agree.
Why?
I like what they got going on with each other.
They have a natural chemistry though.
I agree. I think the relationship is good. I like the characters. I like what they're doing together. They belong together. They belong way better together than Winnie and whatever that other guy who's seeing the girl. But it is so much of it is forced. Like, especially with like Bernie, like she's supposed to be very shy and secluded. And like the second she's in the movie theater with Winnie, she's like holding her hand and like just, I know she's excited to have somebody with her, but also like the ending of the film where it's like, it makes no earthly sense that Bernie would remember any of the occurrences that previously happened.
Okay, yes, I understand that.
And then just for plot, it's like, yeah, I remember. It was very Disney 2000s movie.
Well, yes, but again, that's kind of part of the cringe and the camp that is like the baby of this movie.
So I can kind of understand that. I assume most of the stuff online though is more like incel, like, oh, they're shoving us down our throat again.
No, what I've seen is that people were like, their chemistry as friends was fine, but they just felt like the couple thing, they just thought it was another thing to just like to throw in to appeal to LGBTQ plus people.
Maybe. I know that's a big problem with a lot of films where like they feel like representation is included. I feel like I added an extra syllable there.
Representation
is included, but it's like just for what's the word? South Park just did an episode about it. Pandering.
Yes.
So it's hard to find out where that thing ends and starts, but I think this movie is pretty inclusive altogether. Like we said, there's a lot of gay in the movie.
And queer, and I love it.
So I think, I don't know. I don't think it was pandering. I felt like it was deserved. Like I said, my problem is more so with the execution, not necessarily with like the actual relationship.
Okay. Another critique that I personally have is the dialogue. Some of it is just really terrible.
Dumb.
Yeah, it's really bad and it doesn't flow.
But like you said, sometimes it's
meant to be though, because it's also kind of like Christmas. As I went into this movie expecting it to be not amazing because it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah. Anything that Justin Long says in the film, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh my god. It was also a big part of like the way that he's dressed as well. It's just so funny. I also had an issue with the pacing, but I think we've kind of talked about that.
I think the pacing's okay. I like that the movie starts off with like we've seen a couple of movies like this now, like inciting cause, like an exciting event where it's like the movie's not about this event; it's about like 1 year later.
Yeah.
And that's what the movie takes place. It's nice to have a little setup.
Yeah.
I think the movie can be considered just a little bit long. I feel like maybe you can shave off 5 or 10 minutes, but I think it's perfectly fine as far as pacing is considered.
Okay. I know that some people had critiques about the release date, which is something that we don't control, which is kind of silly.
Well, I mean, I think their complaint is at the studio. Like, why would the studio release it?
But here's what I've seen, though, is that because they knew that the Thanksgiving movie by Eli Roth was coming out the following weekend, they didn't want to have to compete with that.
Well, if they were only going to be in theaters for a week or two, why not December?
Yeah, I understand that. But maybe they wanted, I don't know, it was probably some sort of negotiation that they had worked out.
Yeah, so it's just how it worked out.
Yeah, because theater release was November 10th, and they're releasing it on Shudder on, what's it called? December 22nd. So
right. It's probably more of a situation where, like, this movie was made for Shudder.
Yeah.
And, like, it just happened to also be available for some theater release.
I love it, though, because I'm glad I got to see it, because then when I told my family that I saw it, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be on Shudder at some point, they were like, oh, my God, I didn't know that. Now I want to go see it.
Cool.
So that's fun. I love that.
Yeah.
Another thing, this is something that I definitely do have a critique about. The mind control at the end of the movie, where it turns out the mayor is controlling the people. Very
out of left field. Very sudden.
Like, what? Bitch, where?
I got none of that at all. Is that, and also just like in general, the function of the areola borealis, like what was it doing? Like, was it trying to get like, what made Winnie go back into this other world? Was it a dream? Was it so she can save a different dimension? We previously talked about earlier about A Christmas Carol. I think that's a film where it's like this old guy and there's Tiny Tim and all that.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a time traveling movie. It features this incident, and then the same thing happens here, where it's like
he's visited by ghosts of like Christmas past,
exactly,
present and future.
And then this film, same thing. The Areolas. Is it like there's another multiverse out there?
You say that so funny, and I don't know. You're saying areolas, and it
Borealis.
makes me, but the way that you're saying that, it makes me think of like nipples. I'm sorry, areolas.
I know you have that on the mind often, but generally we're talking about these northern lights. I'll call it that. I'll call it the northern lights for you, okay? But like they almost seem a character of its own, where like they're a certain color, and then you see the zombies, and also Justin Long's character, his eyes start glowing. What's going on here? Like that made no sense.
Out of left field. There was no inkling that this was going to be.
I kind of feel like she was out there to save this dimension, like to save this other world from the killer that it still has, and she did. And that also makes me question things though, where I'm like, if this is a different dimension and it's not a dream, in this world, all her family and loved ones are dead, and she's just leaving it like that.
Yeah,
and that's kind of sad.
She had no control over a lot of that.
No, she didn't, but it just, I don't know, it stays in my mind. I always think about stuff like that.
But I think it's more of a what would have happened had she not been born kind of situation. Like, this is what would have happened.
But was that place real?
I think it...
Or did that place stop existing when she left?
I think it stopped... I don't know.
See, that's what I think about when I see stuff like this.
Because... I mean, that does make me question things a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question, though. We'll have to ask the writer, Michael Kennedy, about that.
Yeah, and I also wonder where this does take place. Where she did get to see areolas? Because I'm... Because I'm thinking you only get to see those from certain points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't see those here in Tennessee.
You don't see them in Tennessee.
Just in bedrooms.
Another complaint that I've seen is the quality of the kills, because it is a slasher.
It's low budget.
It is low budget. I thought the kills were fine, personally. Were they amazing, crazy quality like we see in the movie Thanksgiving with Eli Roth? No, but I don't think I went into it expecting that at all.
Do you have a favorite kill or a memorable one from the film?
I would probably say that one of the coolest kills was at the house party where they were all doing drugs. And it was the random old person who's a neighbor who's hanging out with a bunch of teens, which is weird, but go off queen, I guess. He gets killed. It was nice because you also get to see the killer hitting him with an axe, and then we see this window, so all we see is white because it's snowy and Christmas time, and we see blood splattering on the window.
Yeah.
I thought it was visually stunning. It was really nice.
Okay, fair enough. But I do agree in the sense of not a lot of them are very memorable.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the one that I remembered the most.
Aside from that, I think the gnarliest one is the whole battery electrical wires.
Yeah, that one was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. It was a really shocking.
The silliest looking one was when one of the characters was kissing, Winnie's best friend was kissing her boyfriend.
Oh yeah, that was cool actually.
And he gets it through the head.
Yeah. That was cool. I forgot about that one. And she's like, "What did you eat?" And it's "Ooh, girl, you just been drinking blood." So I meant to mention this a little bit earlier. So a lot of these kills kind of just remind me of Scream in general, but not as cool as Scream quality. But fun fact is that Scream 7 is rumored to take place around Christmas time.
That's fun.
That is super fun. I'm excited because I would love to see a Christmassy Ghostface.
Me too.
Make him a red. Kind of change it up a little bit.
Now you're such a hypocrite.
What are you talking about?
I remember when the trailer for Scream 6 came out, you were like, "Bitch. Oh my gosh, they changed the mask. That's not what he's supposed to look like."
Okay, but then when
you're here, change it. Go ahead.
But make it festive, you know? Mm-hmm. But okay, shut up. I know I said that, but then when I watched the movie, the plot made sense, and it made sense as to why the masks were not great looking.
Well, I hope that Saw takes a hint from the Scream franchise and does the same thing, because I'm still hoping for a Christmas.
I would love to see Christmas Saw. It would be awesome.
I don't even want the movie. I want a holiday TV special.
Yeah, that would be fun. It'd be so fun. So what are some things that the movie did great or did right? I would say. And we're definitely going to talk about some quotes and some clips that I have from the director and the writer as well. But what are some things that you personally think the movie did right?
I think it was funny.
Yeah.
I think some of the characters were lovable. Like, I did like the brother. I did like Winnie. I did like Bernie.
Yeah. I love the aunt. She's one of my, like, probably one of my favorites.
And
well.
I like seeing Joel McHale in anything. I don't know why. He has a charm to me. I thought it was really funny that they got her a tracksuit, but they got him like a big truck.
I was trying to find a movie where that happened, and I couldn't find any reference to a movie where like one person gets a really cool gift and the other person gets like a really shitty gift.
Have you ever felt that kind of comparison amongst your Christmases?
No, it's been pretty equal growing up.
I know that Bailey, like, she has a sister. Her name's Kaylin. Mm-hmm. And every Christmas, they like make sure to give each of them the same amount of Christmas presents.
Yeah. It makes you think of Harry Potter because of Dudley Dursley. Mm-hmm. He's like, 36. I wanted 37 or whatever. Like, it just makes me laugh because my parents do try to make things pretty equal and even between the siblings. And they do a good job. I know that they have routinely said that I'm the easiest one to shop for. I get that from a lot of my family members. They're always like, you're just so easy to shop for. And I'm like, I mean, thank you.
What do they get you?
Collectibles mostly, or like, I don't know. I'm pretty easy with clothes. I like sweaters, cardigans, you name it.
Fair enough.
Or sometimes they'll get me gift cards, books, art supplies, things that I need, like hair dryers, anything like that. So I'm pretty easy. But I mean, I'm mostly there for the food every holiday. I'm like, fuck me up with some deviled eggs, you know?
Some turkey.
So some cool things that I wanted to share with you. So from the writer, here's a quote from him that I found online. He talks about the LGBTQ plus representation in the film. So I wanted to share some information about him and what that quote was, and I have some clips to follow that. So the writer, his name is Michael Kennedy. He's most noted for working on films called Time Cut and Freaky. I have seen Freaky, and I do like it a lot. So he's known for that, but he talks about the LGBTQ plus representation in the film, which is really, really cool. So Jimmy was exactly who I wanted to be. I'm gay. I was an athlete, so it's kind of based on just me in a way. I thought it would be fun if he was the star of the football team and was kind of a cornball. For me, it was just like, they're gay. They're gay too. It was just as simple as that, quite frankly. In fact, at one point, when I was writing the movie, Gail Prescott wasn't gay, and it was Adam Hendricks, one of the other producers, who's a straight man, who goes, you should make her gay too. And I was like, okay. There was a small part of me that thought that this was kind of an ultimate satirization of the Lily White straight Hallmark film, or maybe the Candace Cameron network, which is the Pure Flix that I told you about. These Hallmark movies are so straight and so heteronormative, I thought, let's do the opposite. As a queer person, if I have the ability, I'm going to do it. I was like, if I can put 6 queer characters in a movie, let's do it, and no one can stop me.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Love it.
In reference to the Candace Cameron thing, I've told you about this, where Hallmark is known for having like those straight couples typically. Well, they decided to make a gay Christmas movie, like 2 men, and she was like, and because of her religious beliefs, which is bullshit, she was like, I'm gonna take this and we're gonna do another thing. It's called Pure Flix, I believe. So she was very anti LGBTQ plus in any representation from Hallmark movies. If you watch Hallmark movies, they're very cheesy and corny, and they're lovely. I love them, but I also would like to see different kinds of characters.
Yeah, they are heteronormative.
They are,
and I don't think there's anything Christian about being homophobic.
There's not.
I don't think
I'm sorry. It's really shitty.
Yeah.
So I love that he kind of mentioned that as like a nice dig at her because she sucks.
And this movie does it very well. I don't think like it shoves it down your throat at all. A lot of people complain about that. It's not about them being gay.
Yeah.
Some of them just happen to be gay, just like real life.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. But yeah, we're going to play 2 different clips. One of them being about the romance between Bernie and Winnie, and the other one comparing the slasher and Hallmark.
Yeah, like originally it ended a little bit differently. We auditioned the idea that maybe once she gets back to her reality, that like maybe Bernie didn't remember, and like maybe they had to rebuild this relationship from scratch. And then we thought, well, no, we actually kind of liked the fact that like they sort of like that she does remember, and like how does that work within the logic of things. And but what was kind of different about it was the kind of the climax, like originally that relationship between Winnie and Bernie was sort of like very close and intimate, but it was ultimately a friendship that sort of had implied romance. And then we ended up like once we got the performers together, Jess McLeod and Jane Widdop, and they brought such a good chemistry to it that their kind of romance really grew out of that, and was something that they very much kind of made authentic and kind of brought to the table. And I think it became kind of my favorite thing in the movie. Like we definitely wanted to call to mind like Christmas movies in general, because they're just a huge genre, and like not only like the bigger kind of family ones, but also like this kind of industry of Hallmark and Lifetime kind of like movies of the week kind of Christmas movies. And we wanted to satirize those a little bit, and kind of play in that world and kind of have like this sort of outlandish kind of, small town villain who's got this, real estate scheme, and what would it be like if you like had a psychotic break, and so, trying to find those sorts of kind of fun ways to riff on it. And so we can set ourselves up into a slasher kind of vibe.
I love the idea of like a Hallmark channel, but for like slasher films.
That would be amazing.
And it's just like, maybe I don't know, maybe it's a seasonal thing. Like, I don't know what Hallmark is about, if I'm being honest. Like, I've never really seen a Hallmark film. But
well, we've kind of talked about it on the podcast and how like cheesy, corny, predictable they are. It's typically like your small town and there's one person, and it's so funny, they always have a job in marketing. I don't know why, but it's like they don't know what people do in marketing. I don't know. But they always have a job in marketing, and then they go back to their hometown, but they're like in a big city at the time, and then they come back to their hometown, and then they realize there's this rugged like baker guy or something, or like their family owns a bakery, and there's this rugged lumberjack guy who's a competing business, and then they all like they don't like each other in the beginning.
It's an enemies to lovers kind of story.
Yeah, it's always so cheesy and corny like that. But
I just feel like that's right for a little slasher action.
Oh, I love it. It would be so great. Yeah. I would love to see like a country slasher, I guess, from like the Hallmark section. It'd be hilarious. No, I wouldn't. I would not be in it.
It'd be perfect. Set in Greenbrier. Now, I do like Bernie and Winnie's relationship together. I think it has a lot of heart to it.
It does. Yeah. And I like that they're both creative. Like, Winnie is a photographer and Bernie is a like fashion designer. I think that's really, really cool. And like the idea of them going off to college together in New York.
Sounds fun. I'd like to see their further adventures. I'd like to see where they go on to do.
And then maybe that one could take place around Valentine's Day because, they're in New York and maybe they're like exploring their romance together. And then Valentine's Day, it's just fun. I like to see, I love holiday horror in general. Holiday horror is just really fun because, I don't know.
I love genre things, so.
Me too, yeah. But yeah, let's talk about the director. His name is Tyler McIntyre. He also talks about the LGBTQ plus representation in the film. You also heard a clip of him talking about it, but McIntyre is noted for working on films like Five Nights at Freddy's. There's a franchise called VHS. So he worked on VHS 99, Tragedy Girls, and more. And he's also kind of rumored to also be working on Scream 7 as well. He didn't explicitly say anything, but he has worked on Five Nights at Freddy's. Quick note, though, both actors playing Winnie and Bernie are both identified as non-binary, which is also another added layer that's really cool for those actors playing these characters. And director Tyler McIntyre said, "You cast performers and have them bring their natural chemistry to it. It just ended up kind of growing out of that, and I think the movie ended up being even more queer than we were expecting. The movie was pretty queer on the script level, working with the studio that was supportive of that. Then we kind of let it be what it is," which is really cool. And I think
that's a way to do things.
That is a way to do things.
Like, let things grow as they do and naturally come as they are.
I agree, because I think it's the fact that it's not all that this movie is and all that it has to offer. It makes it more natural when it does show, and you're like, okay. So, with the character Winnie, having a boyfriend in the beginning and then later, having this budding romance with Bernie, one could assume, there's, a layer of bisexuality, queerness, or even pansexuality. It's just really, a very fluid thing. And it's, not super explicit, but it's okay, that's just, a normal thing, So it wasn't all that Winnie was, and I liked that a lot.
Me too, I enjoy that.
But another cool thing, again, like talking about Five Nights at Freddy's with Tyler McIntyre, there's a clip about him talking about that. And of course, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about now, but it's really cool to know that some of these movies that we have previously talked about on the podcast, there's a little bit of a crossover between some of the other ones. So it's exciting. And then we'll have to talk about the exciting news regarding Five Nights at Freddy's after that.
Right, it's like a little update.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it later today. So I'm excited to check it out. But like we worked on it for a couple of years and did a number of drafts and sort of collaborated with Blumhouse and Scott to try and figure out kind of what the story could be. And I'm really excited to see Emma and her team are ultimately able to get it launched, and I'm really excited to see how they brought it together.
That is their update about Five Nights at Freddy's, which is really cool. He didn't really share much, but he did say that he worked with the people, so that's really fun.
Nice, yeah.
So what do you want to share about Five Nights at Freddy's? Because it's exciting.
The film is the biggest horror movie grossing film of 2023, and it's really on the verge. I think it's up to 270 million now. Mm-hmm. I think it's on the verge of overtaking the total box office of the highest grossing Halloween film under Blumhouse.
That is crazy.
Which is right now the top.
Because we just saw this movie at the very end of October, and it is not even a month later.
Yeah, it's done great. And it's day and date. So, like, people didn't have to go out to the theater to see it. You could have just watched it at home on Peacock. Yeah. But people care about this so much that they did.
It's really exciting, and I'm excited to see what the face of horror is going to be in the future.
The budget for FNAF was $20 million.
Oh, wow.
So making $270 million is like making this 20 times over. So
it's basically making the money for movie number 2.
Yeah, not just 2. They could make another 10.
Yeah.
And they will, whatever money those movie makes will still be more than what they spent on to make 10 of them if they're all $20 million budget.
I'm excited to see what they do.
I think it's going to lead to a lot of stuff. I think Poppy Playtime is going to get a movie.
Oh my god!
All like the mascot horror video game characters that are out there are probably going to get movies just because of studios are going to see, oh, this was successful. Yeah. So and there's a difference though. FNAF is the one that started it all, so maybe the other ones won't be as successful, but they're definitely probably going to give it a shot.
I think so, and I think it'll be really fun to see. Let's definitely talk about our overall ratings, though, the grade that we would assign to it.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me?
I'll go ahead and get it out of the way. So I'm going to give it a C+.
Woo!
Because I think that it has good quality. It has a decent story, but there were definitely some things that were just thrown in that were like, what the fuck? But overall, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had a good time, and I would absolutely watch it again. And I want others to watch it because it is a campy, cringy Christmas slasher. And I think it's a fun movie and fun experience to have.
Well, Geraldine, I have some good news.
Okay.
I'm about right there with you at a C for practically the same reasons. I think this movie is a fun movie. It's entertaining. It's paced well. There's a lot of funny parts in it.
Yeah.
And while it is a lot campy and like the budget is low, it's still good enough of a ride to watch for a holiday film.
Yeah.
It's obviously not like a A tier. This is like Midsommar. It's not like this like groundbreaking indie film by any regards. But if you like especially the story between like Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life, and you like horror movies, it's perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah. I agree. But thank you guys so much for watching. That's all that we have today for It's a Wonderful Knife. Stay tuned. We have more holiday horror coming your way.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Fright or Flight, a Live Oaks Village production. This episode was hosted by Geraldine Johnson and Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa. Produced by me, Bailey B. Edited by Geraldine Johnson and music composition by Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa.